It is time for the second chapter of the Book of Rites, Living in Exile, in the words of Jomuer, the Alpha Chief. Once, too, I roamed free. I remember well those days, in which I was called Chief. I traveled all around the world, over on my 4 good paws, and I was well adored. I wanted to go stronger. Here at last I have. I shall not mince my words. This place shall either harden you or kill you. It shall haunt you with old memories. You share the exile's plight. My charge is to alleviate the sting of it for you a little bit, and to prolong your stay, but only for as long as needed. Your charge is to return. We call this place the downside for a reason, but in time, here you can learn to eat, to seek out shelter, and find a certain beauty in the most unlikely places. Downside travels. You cannot survive the downside if you cannot get around. Howlers shall descend on you, or tempests shall shear you to pieces. That is just the way of it. Traveling through the environs is no simple feat. Consider yourself blessed if you are born a cur. If not, however, you shall have to find a means to cross these lands without the benefit of 4 strong paws. Loose Glorian believes this untamed land can be traversed through means unnatural. I thought at first that he meant sorcery, but he suggests invention. He speculates that carriages could cross this land by harnessing its fury. A wild thought. In my case, my paw shall suffice. Downside climate. I know of no polite way to describe the climate here. It oppresses every living thing except perhaps the native flora in a few specific areas. Once more, the recommended course is to keep moving. Moving keeps you warm when it is cold, or when it is very hot. You use what strength you can to move to somewhere you can think and breathe. The weather in the downside seems intrinsic to the different regions, which my good friend Molten Melith shall describe. Shelter can be difficult to find, and you cannot stay in it for very long. Perhaps, however, shelter can accompany you, rather than constrain you. Downside dining. How to sustain oneself with food and drink in such a place as this. The less said of it, the better. Do not complain, observe, and above all, keep moving. Sources of sustenance will avail themselves to those with keener sense. In warmer climates, search the ground at break of day for subterraneans. In colder places, dig for them. Give them purpose. Drinking pools are rare, but moisture in abundance. Outside of the sandfolds, some is poisonous. Take only what you need. The downside limits any opportunity for excess, but it provides enough amenities to meet the needs of life. One who withstands it cannot help but feel a sense of gratitude. Downside diseases. Ailments in the downside often give no warning when they strike. Those who keep moving and make no attempt to settle, they reduce their risk. The afflictions come in multiple varieties. In the bogs of flagging hands, a pallor tends to sink into the skin and then into the mind. The nauseating sea of Solus north of there is difficult for some to tolerate. Very hot or very cold environs bring their own specific side effects. My coat is not as lustrous now. My fangs are long. Like all aspects of the downside, all these ailments share a purpose: to test your body, mind, and spirit. They only appear to harm. Accept them, surpass them, and then move on. Foraged findings. There is a simple pleasure to be found in foraging about this place. Easy for a cur to say, of course. Though barren looking to the naked eye, the downside has its share of semi-hidden treasures, waiting to be found. It was a nose for treasure, after all, which drew us here. Certain types of artifacts found in this place would fetch a reasonable sum in soul, whether because they shine with inner light or due to other special properties. I have observed that stardust, freshly fallen from the heavens, sometimes glimmers in the afternoon. I have not found a use for it as yet, although because it brings me faith, perhaps I have, indeed. Slug markets. There are natives in this land with some capacity for thought and oddly keen instinct for the mercantile. Suspicious creatures, but not disagreeable, not entirely. From time to time we make exchange with them. They lust for coins, for the imperial soul, though why, they do not say. We speculate it is a delicacy? It serves as little purpose here, whilst the slug market wares are sometimes quite valuable. The creatures appear drawn to places where the heavens shine the brightest, perhaps because they know we are as well. What they want exactly is unclear. We taught them of our lands, yet they remain preoccupied with simpler things. Indigenous imps. Special mention must be given to the downside's most popular native creature, which we call the imp. With all respects to our comrade Haub, an imp himself, possessing of extraordinary intellect, most imps are driven by the simplest impulses: to eat, to drink, to procreate, to move, and to survive. These creatures, then, are symbols of the place. They are far more resilient than they seem, though wild by their nature. They, like all of us, can learn. Haub insists that imps are willing to be put to work, like other aspects of the downside. They wish more than to exist, but to exist with purpose. Downside talismans. Survival often is conflated with the physical. When we think of survival, we assume the need to sustain our bodies or improve our bodies. The strong survive. But take it from an alpha chief. There are different kinds of strength. The spirit is what drives us. By comparison, the body's impulses are weak. Here on the downside, faith is found in limited supply. Trinkets and mere baubles that would barely fetch a price in our homeland here are talismans. Seek talismans that mean something to you. Hold on to one that you hold dear. It shall reward you with reminders of your faith, your power, your potential. And that is that for the Book of Jomuer.